Islamic finance is not an island, but an integral part of the global financial system. The global Islamic financial services industry has grown in size and geographic coverage, now encompassing new jurisdictions and more institutions. While Islamic banking remains the pillar of the most Islamic asset, developments are seen across all asset classes and beyond traditional products and services. The Islamic banking industry charted a compound annual growth rate of about 40% between 2004 and 2013. Strong growth was witnessed pre-2008 before showing marked slowdowns in profitability and financing activities, particularly in the Gulf Cooperation Council region, the so-called GCC. Despite slower growth post-global financial crisis, the fundamentals of Islamic banks remain sound. Improving asset quality and a pickup in economic growth are expected to benefit the Islamic banking sector over the coming years. Meanwhile, the Islamic capital market, namely Sukuk, Islamic funds and indices, continue to outpace most other asset classes in the global financial system. Sukuk issuances, for example, have charted about 45% growth between year 2004 and 2013. And for the year 2013, Sukuk issuance out of Malaysia constitute 70% of global Sukuk issuance. Similar to the trend in the conventional bond market, the Sukuk market has seen relatively stronger demand in the light of the limited supply, which push Sukuk yields lower, similar to conventional benchmarks. Additionally, a moderately different composition of equities in global benchmark indices has allowed Islamic indices to outperform the conventional equivalents post-crisis. Islamic financial activities are distinct from conventional financial activities in terms of the underlying philosophy of Islamic finance, which prohibits interest. This in turn shapes the nature of its financial transactions and its risk attributes. This architecture will contribute to the development of a robust and resilient Islamic financial system that can effectively preserve financial stability and contribute to balanced growth and development. The opportunities way ahead are: Islamic financial service industry is now recognized as a competitive and robust alternative to conventional finance, where there is an evolving international financial architecture that supports the industry and an increasingly sophisticated range of products. In the last 10 years, assets under management in the industry have grown at a phenomenal rate of about 20% per annum. As a result of this growth, global assets under management now total over $1.7 trillion US, and this high rate of growth has been across all asset classes and is reflected in the expansion seen in Islamic banking. Takaful and asset management industry too are in the limelight for development. As a result, the Islamic financial services industry has been transformed into a global industry. Although the industry is still small compared to its conventional counterpart, the Islamic financial services sector is now either too large to ignore, or it's approaching systemic importance in a growing number of economies across the world. The core principles of Islamic finance do not resonate only with Muslims. Today, they are attracting the interest of non-Muslims who believe in corporate social responsibility and ethical financing. Islamic finance principles are being reflected in the design of the global regulatory architecture, in which policymakers are rediscovering the value of stressing the close linkage between finance and production, and are putting in place requirements for higher capital and other measures that will reduce risk-taking. Many of these measures correspond closely with Islamic finance principles. Islamic finance too has in recent years acquired greater prominence in the global financial system and has extended beyond the traditional, predominantly Muslim economies to major industrial economies. This growing significance is a manifestation of the viability of Islamic finance as a financial intermediation channel that supports economic growth and the development of nations. While it was initially developed to fulfill the needs of Muslims, Islamic banking and finance have now gained wider acceptance. The growth in the Islamic financial services industry is driven by strong consumer demand, coupled with a facilitating stance by public authorities and a dynamic response from financial intermediaries from the private sector. The result has been innovation and product development, which continues to date. Given the favorable demographics and substantial prospect for sustained high growth in major countries in Asia, South Asia, the Middle East and Africa, countries that have large and growing Muslim population, it is expected that the growth will continue for some time to come. During the global financial crisis period, despite the turmoil across financial markets, Islamic banks remain relatively resilient, still able to grow at a significant pace. The balance sheet of Islamic banks were relatively unscathed as compared to their conventional peers due to the fact that demand for financial products had been essentially domestic driven, which was helped further by banks' high capitalization and ample liquidity that provided a relatively higher degree of confidence to counterparties. With the internationalization of Islamic finance, global interest in the industry is no longer limited to Muslim nations and communities. In essence, what are the challenges? In essence, the challenges identified are strengthening the infrastructural building blocks of the Islamic financial services industry, accelerating the effective implementation of Sharia and prudential standards, creating a common platform for the regulation of the Islamic financial services industry so that we can enhance constructive dialogue. Despite the positive developments expected, the lackluster global economic environment and a shortage of education and product awareness in some jurisdictions, as well as legal and tax issues, are some of the challenges that the Islamic banking industry will face over the coming years. In this context, it is increasingly important that there are mechanisms for ensuring a strong and sound regulatory platform that strengthens soundness and resilience while fostering market activities and growth in each particular jurisdiction. Another key challenge faced by Islamic banks is that for risk management capacity, stronger risk management capabilities are needed if Islamic banks are to take on large financing projects. And the lack of Sharia scholars too is a concern, the lack of expertise. So we need more Islamic banking skills, we need bankers, lawyers, accountants, and other professionals who understand Sharia and Islamic finance to take the industry forward. That is the tech speech. Now, off the cuff speech, which is more interesting. Let me tell you my experience in Asian Finance Bank. We are a very small bank. We focus on corporate. We don't do retail financing. Our balance sheet is very small, but we need to leverage on our parent, which is Qatar Islamic Bank. Capitalization is almost 10 billion US. As you know, Qatar Islamic Bank is one of the biggest Middle East banks, commercial banks in the Middle East. And we have got Cube Invest, which is our investment bank, which caters to provide solutions for asset management, as well as corporate banking and investment banking opportunities. The reason I'm here today is to convince you that you are doing what is right. You are doing accounting, you are doing business. And those so-called academic qualifications will give you the basic foundation to understand business. And it is very critical that with this basic foundation that we have got, moving it forward, in order for you to survive in the industry, you must not be just an ordinary person. You must be extraordinary in order for you to survive in the next 10 years. I'll be very honest with you. The competition in the market is almost crazy. I interview graduates from all universities, maybe from local or foreign university, and most of them are business graduates. What is important is with your academic qualification, you must understand and appreciate that that will not determine whether you'll be successful as a person or as an entrepreneur. Whether you do business or you do accounting or you do history, in order for you to survive in the industry, the spirit of entrepreneurship is a very critical ingredient that will make you a successful person. What you have in terms of your basic qualification will only be just the opening of the door. Everybody can open the door. What is important is who is going to be a leader. In order for you to be a leader, you need to be extraordinary. In the industry, Islamic finance, there's so much opportunity for you because this is an industry which is still at its infancy stage. You must go into the industry where it is developing. If you go into the industry which are already mature, how much can you do other than you want to be a bit more adventurous, to go into something more technical? In Islamic finance, we are talking about basic principles of ethics. Islamic finance is not about the structure of a product that you're going to sell to your customers. Islamic finance is a win-win situation. I will be very happy if my bank makes profit and my client too make profit. So whatever products that I sell to my clients must have that Islamic finance attitude, in the sense that it is a win-win situation between the banks and the consumers. And this is very critical. You must feel for your customers. And if you don't have that ethics, then it is very difficult whether you be working in a conventional bank or Islamic bank. That doesn't matter. What is important is for you to understand that you must have the spirit of equity. If you make money, if you're a salesman, you want to sell a product, you must make sure the product works. And you are willing to put and even sell your own mother and father to stand by it. And that is Islamic finance. Responsibility, the 3R. Responsibility, responsibility, responsibility. When I sell a product in my bank, of course I do corporate loans. Most of them are sent to government-linked companies. For me to sell a product, I don't sell the product first. I sell the value proposition first. Value proposition comes from Islamic finance. What values can you add to your client that makes him interested to bank with you? I see a lot of conventional bankers when they sell their product. It's all about selling the product and nothing else. My storyline, Islamic finance, is about not selling my services, but the ability to contribute to the development of their own organization. How can I help? By providing you with this financing, how can I value add to your business? Once I sell that product, how do I value add? These are all the intangibles. Number one, you must make sure that the client, you introduce new market destination. You must be able to add value to the client so that by banking with you, you are now introducing new network, introducing new clients to your existing clients so that he can grow his business. The value proposition will come in because of the personal relationship and the responsibility that you take while convincing the client to bank with you. And that is all about Islamic finance. It is nothing sophisticated. Believe me. The structures are sophisticated only at the first instance. I'm sure you must have heard of the Tawarruk structure, the Wakalah structure. Please don't let it scare you. It is not rocket science. It is basic principle, conventional. Not to say that we clone conventional to become Islamic. But in Islamic, the principle of interest is not there. We don't charge you interest. We call it profit sharing. It's a win-win situation. Even for our Mudharabah fixed deposit, we profit share with you 50-50, 70-30, depending on the performance of the institution. So it's all about equity. It's about the spirit of caring. And Islamic banking, as I always say to myself and my staff, it must come with the soul. Without the soul, it is not Islamic banking. It must come from within. I do not want any one of you to join Islamic banking because of the money. Islamic banking is about social responsibility, about the spirit of caring. While you make money, yes, but it's a win-win situation for both parties. And that is the principle of Islamic banking. And why I am encouraging all of you to look into the possibility, if you have got an opportunity to do your MBA in Islamic finance, go for it. There's so much opportunities available in Islamic finance. I'm not talking about becoming a Jago Kampung. I don't preach Jago Kampung. And I don't believe that the Jago Kampung can survive in this environment. I believe that all of you can become global heroes. And global heroes, you must be extraordinary. You must have the passion. And more importantly, the integrity to carry this through. So for you to go into Islamic finance, at your MBA level or even at your degree level, this will give you the right platform for you to take this through, because in the global economies, if you look at, with due respect to the Harvard Business School, you look at all the products that were introduced by so-called the Harvard and Carnegie Mellons, all the MBAs of the top school that came from Harvard. They were the one that designed all the derivative products that they themselves didn't understand. There was no risk management at all. And they sold to the global markets. And people were impressed because, wow, they are MBA Harvard. Their products are so-called very sensitive to the market environment. They use the trend analysis to make sure that whatever history that has been on the trend will repeat itself. It doesn't. And all the failures of the economic crisis, who are we going to blame? These are the so-called the MBAs of the Harvard and the Stanford who came up with all these products. So-called the CDOs, the collateralized debt obligation. So-called the synthetic CDOs, all very fancy names which they don't understand, and they went preaching and selling to all their institutions. And all of them have failed. And this have resulted to the global economic crisis. So now you go back to Harvard. Recently, when I was attending this course under the INSEAD program under leadership, we were given the opportunity to attend some classes in the University of California in Berkeley. So we asked the professors, are they going to review the syllabus? And for your information, one of the syllabus that is very important for your MBA is about ethics and social responsibility. Other than the technical tools of designing products for investments. It is very important to have the right moral and the right integrity and the right skill set. Because when you launch a product, you must make sure it works and you are willing to put your bottom dollar to invest in it. If you are not, don't sell it to anybody else. And that is, to me, the spirit of Islamic finance, which is it comes from the heart. A lot of people will preach to you about products. They will talk to you that we have got so many products, so many varied products, which is better than conventional. We have not been tested. I must say, we started Islamic banking in the year 1983 with the development of the Islamic Banking Act. If you remember, in 1983, the first Islamic bank was Bank Islam. So when we started that, we learned from ground zero. We started the development. And today, we are very happy that the growth of Islamic finance has grown tremendously, and we have been labelled the champion of Islamic finance in the global market. So whether it be London or New York or all the mature destinations of the capital market of the world, when we talk about Islamic finance, they still pay homage to Malaysia, meaning to say they respect what we have done to develop Islamic finance today. And I'm not saying that Islamic finance doesn't have its flaws. It has its flaws. Nothing is flawless except God. Nothing is flawless except God. So you must understand that. the more you make the mistake, for as long as you learn from your mistakes and you don't repeat it, then you'll be very successful. And if you don't make mistake, you will never be successful. You can ask all the billionaires and the millionaires of the world. They have gone through very difficult times because through mistakes they learn and improve to make themselves better. Nobody is perfect except God. Only God doesn't make mistakes. So for as long as a normal human being, you must have the ethics, you must have the energy. And energy is most important because all of you are young people. You must be very vocal. Also, in Islamic finance, it's not about becoming an ustad. I know some of you, when we talk about Islamic finance, some of you will not be interested to attend my talk. Oh, he's going to preach for you to become a preacher, so that you become the advisor to Jakim or to the authority. Believe me, that concept has to change, that mentality has to change. Because Islamic finance, there's so much opportunities available for all of you. And I hope SEGI, inshallah, will develop Islamic finance faculty. And I'm sure there will be a lot of people that will be interested, not only from the local relations, the Middle East countries, as well as many developing countries that is looking at Islamic finance as a major tool for the development of their own economies. With that, I would like to again say thank you to all of you for listening, and also thank you to SEGI University for giving me this opportunity to share some little expertise that I have got with all of you. And I hope what I have said today, if there's anything that you need further information, please call on me, and I'm very happy again to meet all of you to discuss the techniques. Thank you.